Before we start this one out, just a heads up for the kiddos who actually want to watch Tokyo Ghoul, the lore both here and in the Killer Bio will spoil Season 1. Admittedly, I watched Season 1 of this anime, and, well, I personally don't think you're really missing anything. Just throwing it out there. Anyway, quick world building note here. This world is inhabited by humans and ghouls. The ghouls are essentially the White Glove Society from Fallout New Vegas, but with the ability to use human eviscerating powers. There is a faction that just wants to chill and be left alone, and a faction that wants to essentially turn cities into glorified cattle ranches. I mention this not because the anime really gets into the intricacies of ghouls and humans living together, not that I'm bitter about that, but because that will help the next couple of parts make sense for those of you who would rather suck a hot iron than watch anime. I will note that a lot of people say the manga is outstanding and actually tackles these interesting topics, but I haven't read it. So, Kaneki was hanging out with his buddy Hide at a coffee shop when he noticed a bespectacled butte off in the corner. Kaneki bided his time and eventually he saw his opening to unleash his pickup line. "You're reading this book? I'm reading this book. Let's hook up." Now, Kaneki wasn't really the kind of person that you would expect to successfully land a date. The dude was essentially like one of those cats that gets fluffed up by their own farts. You know, kinda cute, but in a sad kind of way. Rize took him up on it though. As it turns out, Rize was actually a ghoul and figured that Kaneki would be a great late night snack. Not only was she a ghoul, but she was the binge eater. She was such a badass that even other ghouls were afraid of her, so obviously Kaneki had no shot. Thankfully, Deus Ex construction beams are super handy, and they took her out somehow. Anyway, Kaneki was on the verge of death, so the doctors decided to throw some of Rize's organs into him, which resulted in his ghoulification. He started wanting to eat people, and not in the good way. He also didn't like food anymore. His brain was about to crack like a walnut when he stumbled upon Toka, who brought him back to the coffee shop that he met Rize in. It turns out that there's a little found family of ghouls who prefer cruelty-free noms that are hanging out there. They taught him how to use his powers, control the urge, and to make sure that the Commission of Counter Ghoul, a government agency full of quirky edgelords who deal with criminal cases around ghouls, left him alone. Now, word spread that Kaneki was a little bit different. This escalated to the point where other ghouls were starting to wonder if a ghoul-human hybrid was the equivalent of a turducken. Our man was a walking KFC and all the ghouls were after the Colonel's recipe. Eventually, he got snatched up by Jason, who physically and mentally broke Kaneki. He eventually let Rize take the wheel and went from mild-mannered book nerd to a character whose every frame exists to make teenage edgelords exclaim, "So cool." Now, I will say that the ending of the lore is different than the ending of the anime. You know, because Kaneki's supposed to be a good guy, and here he is eating survivors with about as much wastefulness as literally every dinosaur in the Jurassic World franchise. I've literally never seen a single ghoul finish a damn meal in that anime. You'd think they want to bring a to-go bag or something and not just take a bite out of the shoulder where there's a crap load of bone and then call it a day. Sorry, moving on. The creators of Tokyo Ghoul were okay with DbD making some changes. Maybe it'll make people want to watch the anime. It worked on me after all. So essentially, he walked out of that torture session having eaten another ghoul and realized he's super strong now. At that point, a fog rolled in and Kaneki decided that he'd had to endure so much pain that it's about time to start dealing it out. Taking Jason's finger cracking habit and a bunch of his cringy one-liners, Kaneki headed into the fog.